Steelers Nation, welcome back to episode 3 of the Kold Steel Podcast. I am your host, Kold Steel, and man, it is June 10th, 2022. Training camp is just around the corner. The Steelers just wrapped up their mini camp, which we will be discussing tomorrow on the channel. And if you're listening to this on the audio formats, that is youtube.com/KoldSteel412. Every Saturday, we're going to go live for Let's Talk Steelers, and tomorrow's topic is going to be discussing the mini camp and everything within that realm. Every player, every position, we'll be discussing what went down and all the news surrounding that. So if you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. But today, we're going to be talking about maybe my favorite offensive player on the Steelers roster, maybe your favorite offensive player on the Steelers roster. And if you don't know who I'm talking about Najee Harris, who is heading into his second year. His rookie year obviously was absolutely amazing, considering when you look at that offensive line and what they weren't able to do. And what Najee Harris was able to do is absolutely incredible. And I think his second year is going to be just as great, and we'll be getting into that very shortly. But before we do that, I want to get into some of the news that is surrounding Najee Harris. And this one is very interesting, and I want to give you guys my thoughts on this. This is reported by CBS NFL. Steelers Najee Harris expects to take time off as Pittsburgh looks to lessen his workload in 2022. The former first-round pick might come off the field more this season. And man, I can already see people panicking at the idea that the Steelers are coming out and letting us know from the gate, hey, we're going to be taking some of the workload off of Najee Harris's back. But here's the thing. This is exactly the kind of news you want to see. This is something that myself and others have been begging the Steelers to do, going all the way back to Le'Veon Bell. In fact, I would argue that that was probably one of the biggest mistakes the Pittsburgh Steelers made with Le'Veon Bell, was pretty much running this guy into the ground. And we don't want that to be repeated with Najee Harris. That is the last thing we want. So here we are, that this was reported June 8th, 2022. To see this news is, man, it's just amazing. It lets me know that the Steelers are serious about taking care of their players. Let's go on and continue this article. It says that it has nothing to do with his weight, which, yes, I mean, I can't believe I'm about to even entertain this. The media, specifically Pittsburgh media, it is a slow, dreadful time for them right now. To sit there and focus on this guy's weight is absolutely comical. But I think you guys already know what went down with that. Steelers media or Pittsburgh media was trying to insinuate that Najee Harris is a fat slob and he gained too much weight during the offseason, which is not the case. But it says it has nothing to do with his weight. Considering the timing of this news, Najee Harris likely expects the world to interpret that way. So he's already expecting Pittsburgh media to take this announcement that he's going to be taking less of a role in 2022 as a way to point the finger and say, well, it's because he gained too much weight. That is not the case. In fact, Najee Harris himself said he only gained 2 pounds since last season, because the reported weight that he came in, or what was reported on Steelers.com, was not accurate. And that is normally the case with all players. But after all, the former first-round pick has already had to defend himself against sports or reports of alleged major weight gain that has him currently weighing in at 244 pounds, recently clarifying he was 242 pounds last season and not the 230 pounds he was listed at. putting his gain at only 2 pounds and not a more robust tally of 14. Pretty sure Najee Harris wasn't sitting around this offseason eating Cheetos and Hot Pockets like some of the reporters. This whole thing is just ridiculous. The reason Najee Harris is going to be taking a backseat, and by the way, I have to say this. If you think Najee Harris taking a backseat and allowing maybe another running back, who that is, I don't even want to begin to think, because I don't think there's anyone currently on this roster that could even remotely play at the level that he does. But I could be proven wrong. Maybe they bring somebody in. That is a discussion for another day. But man, I mean, the fact that this is even being talked about is bananas to me. This guy is taking a backseat so that he doesn't get injured. As you guys know, the shelf life of a NFL running back is fairly short. Okay, that is just what it is. Le'Veon Bell is a more recent example of that. You can look at how long his career lasted. He's no longer in the NFL, mainly because a lot of teams don't think he can play. Whether or not I agree with that, I mean, I don't know. I think Le'Veon Bell could probably find a spot on the roster somewhere. But the overall message here is that the NFL running back has a very short lifespan in the league. So Najee Harris and the Steelers both agree that him taking less of a role is probably best for business. And here's my reaction. I agree. Again, I want to go back to this. Myself and others have been begging the Steelers to get a 2 to 3 running back system in place. Okay, you got Najee Harris. He's a guy that's going to pound the ball. He's a guy that can get out in open space. He's a guy that can break tackles. We need to have a second guy right behind him that can change the pace in speed. We need a speedy guy behind Najee Harris. Again, to change the pace, to keep the defense off balance, to keep them confused. Okay? That is what you want, and the Steelers really haven't done that in years past. They ran Najee Harris last season into the ground. Now, thankfully, and this is kind of funny because, you know, the weight jokes have been circulating the last 2 weeks. He's taking care of himself in a way that most NFL players do not. In fact, I think it's on record saying that he does yoga, which laugh all you want. I mean, it's a great thing. I've tried it myself, and I'd like to get back to doing it myself. But from a player aspect, it keeps him loose, and he's putting himself in positions that if another NFL player gets put in, let's say the leg's bending a certain angle or whatever, he's already putting his body in that position via yoga. And these NFL players that aren't used to being in those positions, those are the ones that end up suffering injuries. So again, this whole situation is a A+ in my book. I'm glad to see this actually being put into place. And I'm even looking more forward to the Pittsburgh Steelers 2022 season, because now I know Najee Harris isn't going to get ran into the ground. Let's talk about Najee Harris's 2021 season, because I kind of want to give you guys my expectations for year 2. Najee Harris in 2001 played 17 games. Yeah, 17 games. That means he's played every single game of the 2021 season. He had 307 attempts, 1,200 rushing yards. He had a 3.9 average, 37 yards being his longest, and he finished the season with 7 touchdowns on the ground. And then, of course, receiving department, he had 74 receptions, 467 yards. He averaged 6.3 yards, 25 being the longest, and he had 3 receiving touchdowns, bringing the total to 9. That is his rookie year. So needless to say, this was a very, very good season for the rookie running back. who, again, had to run behind one of the worst NFL offensive lines, and even more specifically, one of the worst Pittsburgh Steelers offensive lines that I remember in recent memory. So it's very impressive, and obviously now, going into 2022, the expectations are even higher for Najee Harris. And here's what I'm expecting. We just got the news. This is why I started off with Najee Harris getting less of a role, because it really paints the picture for what we can expect. Now, on the surface, I think a lot of people would expect Najee Harris to not have a season like his rookie year. But here's where I disagree. When you look at what the Steelers did in the offseason for the offensive line, even though it wasn't extremely dramatic, I would argue that it is still an upgrade. And the upgrade on the offensive line is going to allow Najee Harris to get into more space and to find holes and to get downfield. So even though he's taking less of a role and he's not going to be on the field as much as he was in his rookie year, he's still going to be extremely productive. Outside of that, this is a guy who now has experience in the league. And during the offseason, he's able to work on his skills, and he benefits from that. That right there alone should tell you that Najee Harris is going to have a great season as long as everything goes the way it should. You add in the fact that the Steelers bring in new quarterbacks. As much as everyone loved Ben Roethlisberger, that era is over. And quite frankly, what happened last year with Ben shouldn't have happened. We should have moved on long before that, but it is what it is. That is, again, another topic for another day. Maybe never. We got new quarterbacks on the roster. You got new receivers on this roster. You add all those things together offensively, and Najee Harris should have an extremely productive season. So that is my thoughts on what I expect in 2022 from Najee Harris. Again, I think he's going to have an incredible year. Let's close this out by looking at one more thing that came out this week. And we'll be talking more about this tomorrow during the live stream again. Subscribe to the channel on YouTube if you have not already. We will be going live probably tomorrow afternoon. I'll let you guys know. Make sure you keep your eyes on the community tab. Najee Harris teaching Devin Bush footwork. I bet you this is something no one expected to read. Najee Harris working with a defensive player. It says Najee Harris always makes headlines for things he probably doesn't mean to. Now that people are done calling him fat, he caught everyone's attention by teaching Devin Bush some footwork drills. Obviously, Bush knows every drill in the book and has pretty good footwork for an outside or inside linebacker. Learning from the team's top running back doesn't hurt, though. Who knows what was said, but the two were all smiles while talking by the running back equipment. This is 2 days in a row they've worked on some stuff together. So what does this mean? Well, it's very simple, ladies and gentlemen. I want to go back to 2022 expectations. This also tells me that Najee Harris, whether it's offense or defense, he is a leader in this locker room. Maybe now we can start to see why Ben Roethlisberger was so comfortable passing the torch to not a quarterback, but a running back. Obviously, Ben saw something in Najee Harris from a mature standpoint, from a mature aspect. He can tell this guy has leadership qualities. So here we go, second year for Najee Harris, and he's already showcasing those leadership skills. And he's working with, it's incredible, he's not working with an offensive player in this specific case, he's working with a defensive player. That says a lot. You guys all know that Ben, in the past, he's had relationships with defensive players, most notably James Harrison. So again, you can start to see why those two kind of clicked last year. And Najee Harris, going into his second season, is showcasing those leadership qualities. And again, if you're not excited to see what Najee Harris is going to do in year 2, I don't know what else to tell you. And what's crazy is this isn't even everything. This is just the surface of what we can discuss when it comes to Najee Harris. And again, man, I cannot wait to see what this man does. That said, man, that's going to be it for episode 3. I know we kept this one a little short, but it is the off season. And man, training camp is coming up. I will see you guys Monday for episode 4. And I'll also see you guys tomorrow for the live stream. Let's Talk Steelers. And we'll be discussing the mini camp drills and everything that went down in OTAs. So if you want to be a part of that, again, make sure you sub to the channel. Do not forget to hit that like button before you go out, and make sure you follow me on social media at Kold Steel 412. That said, Steelers Nation, I'm Kold Steel, and I'll see you guys in the next one.